Welcome back to Big Sky Buckets. I'm Big Sky. Happy Friday, everyone. Today, on this beautiful Friday, December 1st, beginning of my favorite month, we're going to do a little fun tidbit looking at teams that I think, a couple of teams that might be buyers, and then a couple of teams that are stuck in the middle. I think a lot of the media is talking about sellers right now, and I actually did this is a re-recording, might as well tell you. I like to be pretty open about stuff in general. So this is a re-recording. The teams that I was talking about are sellers. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I think people are going to take this the wrong way. And I'd rather talk about buyers. I think talking about teams that are close to something or the flaws stick out a little bit more. And then the in-between teams. The teams that I think by the end of the month, there are a couple of teams here, I think by the end of the month, especially in the East, that we're going to figure out if they will inevitably be buyers or sellers by the deadline in early February. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'd appreciate all the subscriptions as I get this up and going. I'm putting a lot of effort into this, pumping out as much content as I can to try and grow this channel, and I'd really appreciate all that support. I'd appreciate likes on this video, on the shorts I do, my TikToks, past videos, all of that. Comment down below your thoughts. This will be interesting to see if you differ from any of my thoughts with buyers and sellers and all of that going forward. But yeah, let's get into it. Oh, also, if you're an audio-only listener, give it a rate, give it a listen. Let's get into it. So one quick thing before we get started. DeMar DeRozan basically put out his preferred trade destinations, which insinuates that he's basically requesting a trade. And this is good for Bulls fans because this pushes the front office and the ownership that, from all the speculation I've heard, does not want to do a full-on rebuild and makes it harder for them to not do that. It makes it easier for them to do a full-on rebuild because they're probably not going to get the value that they believe these players like Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan warrant back in a trade. So let's talk about those destinations really quick. DeMar wants to go to the Miami Heat or New York Knicks. Let's talk about Miami Heat really quick. This is a terrible fit for Miami because they already have a bunch of wing players who can shoot in the mid-range and get to the rack. Basically, Jimmy Butler and Jaime Jaquez Jr., so they don't need DeMar. Look, the Heat need a star guard or a very solid to all-star level power forward. If you are not that, and that is not your primary position, they do not need you. Therefore, this just doesn't fit, and I don't love this, so moving on. To the Knicks now. Again, personally, I don't love this. I understand the Knicks need offense right now. Their defense is still great. They've always been a good defensive team. The reason I don't love the fit here, personally, is just the fact that they're the main scoring options on the Knicks right now probably sum it up to Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett. All of those guys can shoot threes, which is good, and get to the rack, which is good. But they also, it's very, other than RJ, I think, Julius Randle loves shooting middies, and Jalen Brunson is absolutely phenomenal at weaving around in the paint and shooting middies. This feels just like you're going to end up having defenses pack the paint when all of them are on the floor. And I'm assuming that DeMar thinks he's going to start on this team, and I don't know how Knicks fans feel, but I would not love him starting. The only good that would come out of him starting is pushing RJ into to his actual traditional role, which is the shooting guard. That's what he played in high school. That's what he played in college. That's where he should be playing, but for obvious reasons, he's playing as a small forward, so that would be good for RJ. Other than that, I just think you waited out. You know, Kevin Durant and Kyrie didn't even become available as trade candidates during the trade deadline until the weekend before the trade deadline. So you just need to stand pat. They have plenty of assets to make a trade, and they're not very desperate right now. If you're the Knicks, you're 11-7. You're playing perfectly fine. You're sitting in a nice solid spot in the East and in the playoff position. You don't really need to overthink this. Just wait. Be patient, and typically that patience will pay off by having one of these teams. I'm even going to talk about a couple of teams that might be intriguing to the Knicks and those players become available. So let's get into the main substance here. So before I was going to do 5 teams, but I actually want to do two teams that I think should be buyers, and two teams that I think by the end of the month it's going to be apparent, because I think a lot of teams are finding their stride right now. This typically happens in December. Teams will start to distance themselves from the rest of the pack as they're the best, and then you have them right in the middle, and so a lot of teams in the middle in both East and West. Not necessarily as much last year in the West, but I think this year in the West they will distance themselves, and then they'll be play-in and lottery teams. So I think we're going to find out which teams are actually playoff caliber teams or play-in caliber teams by the end of the month for a couple of these teams at least. So let's start with the teams in the middle. There's two teams here, both in the East, that I think this month will make or break them. So we'll start with the team that I'm more confident that is 100%. You're either absolutely a buyer or this team will be a seller. And that is the Atlanta Hawks. I've said it a million times. I don't want to talk about this team anymore until I see something. So I saw this morning, the schedule looks quite brutal for this month of December for the Atlanta Hawks, who are missing Jalen Johnson, who basically connected this whole team together. They have been struggling defensively, and I'll make this one very short. The reason I think they'll end up being sellers is because I think they're going to lose most of these games because their defense is so bad. I know that Trey wants to make the playoffs and all of that, but to me, in my personal opinion, what I would like from my favorite team is to sometimes you just got to say, this doesn't work. It's not about cashing all your chips in. This team has showed us only one time during a very weird season that they could make to the Eastern Conference Finals. For the past 2 years, they haven't gotten out of the first round and have had to get there via the play-in. This is not a lot of Hawks fans are talking about trade for Pascal Siakam, and I actually don't believe that should happen if you lose out this month. If you do more losing than winning this month, be a seller. If you win most of it, definitely be a buyer. And if you're still at 500, then I guess we're just pushing this exact conversation over into January. The odds that they're still 500 by the end of this month, to me, are very low. Okay. Just to throw one little thing in there, players that could be trade candidates for the Hawks, I believe, because if you lose out of this month and it looks like it's a hard struggle to get back up to contending again for a playoff position, I'm not saying championship, I think players like Saddiq Bey, Clint Capella, even possibly DeAndre Hunter. I know that the fans of Atlanta really love him right now. And then even at the worst, if we really mess this month up and January, I think it would be time to move off of the Trey DeJounte experiment, and then you'd be trying to move off of DeJounte. That's what I'd hope for, because I'd hate to see this front office make another blunder and just completely destroy the future of this team by having such an average level team. Next team in the East, the Brooklyn Nets. I only say this, I like Cam Thomas a lot, and I think they do as well. And I like Mikal Bridges a lot, and I know they do as well. However, I guess the reason that they might not, I'll preface this with they might not sell big. They might sell Dorian Finney-Smith. They might sell Cam Johnson. Maybe they definitely won't sell Nick Claxton, and they definitely won't sell Cam Thomas. There's a possibility that Mikal Bridges could get disgruntled, so there's a possibility there. But the only reason that they might not be is because the Rockets own most of their picks. I will double check to see if they own their pick this year, because that could be telling. But otherwise, the main thing here is they're also at 500. And the defensive-oriented team, the team did not change at all from last year. But they were a defensive-oriented team, and they basically just became like the Indiana Pacers and the Atlanta Hawks, just don't have the pace that they have, which is they're very good offensively, and for some reason these guys can't play very good defense. Now, Nick Claxton coming back, or he's been back for a little bit, has been very helpful for them. But you just got to look at your wings like, hey, what happened to the defense? Mikal Bridges is supposed to be an all-defensive guy. I don't know why they haven't been as good defensively, but I think it's just simply here. I like Cam Thomas for his offense. The reason why I would consider kind of being a seller, if you lose out, is you need a high caliber point guard to make this whole thing go. And that's one of the problems of this team. But if they're buyers, it'd be the same thing. It's just that you'd get more assets to finally wait till a team with a star guard blows it up. So that's the thing here. I think the Nets are probably in better position than the Hawks, in my opinion, just because they're coming back from injury like Cam Thomas, and they're going to put it together a little bit. I think they're probably looking at a play-in position, but I don't think the ownership cares that much after the Kevin Durant Kyrie experiment. But yeah, those two teams to me are teams to watch what happens by the end of this month, because I think the other teams at the top are probably going to start drifting upwards, while these two teams, in my opinion, probably are more closer to drifting downwards. But I'm more certain about the Hawks drifting downwards than the Brooklyn Nets. All right, let's talk about the buyers. Both of the teams are in the West. I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. This is one that's been talked about a lot, so I won't waste your time. The main thing here is that obviously Klay is not the player he once was, but the main damning thing about this team is that Andrew Wiggins is just not playing very well. And this team, they're just starting to get hit by the injury bug, which is bad. It's not what they need right now. Steve Kerr doesn't like playing his rookies. He doesn't really trust them near the end of the games, and then lets, the nostalgia of the Warriors dynasty kind of try and win them games near the end, and that has fell flat. Aside from last night, for the past couple of games, Steph needs help. I know this is redundant to say, like every star player needs help, but Steph needs help because he's still playing out of his damn mind, and he's one of the best guards in the league, if not the best. He's one of the best players in the world right now. I would say top 5 for sure. The stars they once had have fallen, and this is what happens with age and injury. They need another star, and they have assets, they have picks to do it, and they have young talent that is just not getting enough run time to truly develop and flourish the way they want. And Pascal Siakam would be an interesting fit on this team. I'm not entirely sure I'm huge on that, but just like with the Knicks, wait it out. If the Golden State Warriors waited out a little bit, they are a little bit more desperate than the Knicks, so that might not be necessarily in the cards, but this team is older. They need someone in their prime, and they need a wing to be that player, because I still like Kevon Looney. Draymond is still okay. It's whatever. But you just need someone next to Steph, whether that's a shooting guard or a small forward, to be one of the primary pieces of this team. And you got to get rid of those picks in youth and go all in with Steph and see if you can make 1 to 2 final pushes of getting a championship. And then the final team, and this is probably the most wild card team that I'm going to talk about here today, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So there's been a lot of talk, and again, the controversy I'm not going to talk about until it's all said and done. But that exact player is starting to look like, Josh Giddey is looking like he might be the odd man out of this team. And they've been really rolling as of recently. They're the 3rd seed in the West. Shea, building block, he's your franchise guy. Chet looks like a franchise guy. Lou Dort is a great role-playing piece, all defensive. Cason Wallace has been an absolutely incredible rookie guard for them. He's been a great defender of primary guards and being a POA defender. And J-Dub is also a great player and one of their top 3 options on this team. I think the reason that you might find them as buyers is with all the assets they have, they just are like one key piece in, I think it's the small forward position is what they are really looking for. Possibly a 3 to 4. Someone who can play small forward or power forward, star level guy. They have the assets. They have some young guys that they're probably going to have to move on from at one point just because you can't keep them all. And they have so many draft picks. Look to see if this team is still up there by the trade deadline. Any small forward to power forward player, they own the market because they are so rich in draft capital that they will get whoever they want. And one of the teams I'd say to look out for is I think they have a lot of the Thunder fan base. I have a lot of friends who are Thunder fans, and just on social media, it looks like if for some reason Danny Ainge, by getting rid of Lauri Markkanen because he doesn't want to pay Lauri Markkanen, he wants to go through the full draft process because he has done a good job in the past of drafting, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all that. That would be someone to keep an eye on. If they really are starting to look like it, and if they're really collectively rolling, it might be the time for them to just say, it's time to win a championship. I lost out last time with generational talent. I'm not going to let them all end up walking away. So the Thunder are someone to look out as, with as much assets that they have and how well they are playing. The wing position is one that just needs to be solidified, in my opinion. And then they could really, really give some teams hell in the West. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening. Give it a sub, a like, comment down below. If you're an audio-only listener, give it a rate, give it a listen. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.